start verse number, the chapter number 13. We have finished the chapter 12 in which we discussed Bhakti Yoga. And as we did the details yesterday in a very, very brief way, if I can just put it in 3-4 sentences, what Bhagavan explained in chapter 12 was that the Saguna Upasakas will require to do a bit of meditation on the Lord, on the universal self, on the supreme reality with name and form. Not a problem, but that is only an intermediate phase. And then once a person, and then he is also kind of a liberator. Bhagavan himself comes to liberate it, because the devotee is not ready to realize the oneness between he himself as a devotee and his Lord. It's part of the same consciousness. The same consciousness appears as separate because of our own ignorance. That is what Vedanta teaches us. And we will discuss that more today. So I don't want to get into it. And then he says, even though they are Yukta Tamaha, Yoga with Tamaha, and I come to liberate them, Arjuna, please understand, who are very dear to you. There are two category people who is very difficult for you. They are the Abhyakta Upasakas. And then he suddenly makes a U-turn after verse number 12, after advising him that you try to meditate on me. If you cannot, try to have the habit of sitting and meditating on me. No, I can't sit. Okay, you do my work. Do all your work, keeping me in the focus of your attention, and all the time keep me as your destination. In the sense, you are doing Nishkama Karma for your purification and to reach me. Think like that. He said that also is very difficult, because I have a Vikshipta Chitta, I'm all over the place. Then Bhagavan is still compassionate and he tells him, okay, fine, do what you want. You have a lot of distractions because you have a family, you have a company, or you have an ashram, or you have a political party, or you have a social commitment. Not a problem. Can you do one thing? You try and do whatever you want, but you must come back to me again and again. Surrender the results of all your activities for me. It's like a mother negotiates with the son. The son says, today is a Sunday, I'm going to play a cricket match. The mother is only bothered about this boy will forget his lunch, his dinner, he's going out, he forgets everything. So the mother says, okay, you're going on one promise. What is the promise? So you have to come back for lunch at a particular time. Now, I don't know time or anything. Imagine it's a village. Then the mother says, when you look at the sun, it's right on your head. You remember your mom. You come back for lunch. And then when the sun sets, you come home. And then you have to take a bath and you have to do your homework. Son agrees. Mother releases him. Similarly, Bhagavan says, you do all your activities, whatever you want, but you have to surrender that to me. Thinking that by so doing, he is enabling him to stay in touch with the divine. And by surrendering his work, he'll have Vairagya. Then he will be more focused. Then he'll go backwards. He'll be able to do mat karma. He can become a mat karma. Bhagavan's karma he will do. Then he will become even more concentrated. He can do some abhyasa. Then he can do dhyana. Then at a higher level, when this dhyana becomes very stable, then he can do Nirguna Upasana. And then Bhagavan sort of from 13th onward till 19th verse, he mentions a few adjectives to describe what is the nature of a Nirguna Upasti, who is a successful Jivana Mukta, somebody who has already reached that level of oneness between Jiva and Brahman. So Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam Maitraha Karuna Evasa Nirbhava Nirahankara, he mentioned all that. He's Santushtaha Satatam Yogi Yatatma Dridha Nishchayaha Mayarpito Manarbuddhi, his mind and his intellect all surrender to me. Sarvarambha Parityagi Harsha Marsho, Bhaya Udvega, he's free from all these. Udasina Gatabhyatha, he's completely detached, he's not having any partiality or any interest in anyone, and he's beyond all pleasure and pain. Physically they might happen, but mental anxiety, he's not affected by it. Having mentioned all that, Subha Subha Parityagi, Samaha, Satraucha, Mitraucha, his complete equanimity, having all described at length all that, Bhagavan sort of say, Yetu Dharmyamritam idam jathoktam paripasate. The ones who do this sort of meditation, Sraddhadhanaha matparamaha, and keeping me as their ultimate destination. Bhaktaha, and they are my real devotees. Ativa me priyaha. So Bhagavan, what did he say in the end? He's saying the ones who do like this, having this sort of description about them, these are their lakshanas, they are very dear to me. I love them most. Then earlier, to please Arjuna, he has already told him, what you are doing Saguna Upasana is fine. You don't need to bother about Nirguna Upasana. Then he says these Nirguna Upasakas who are self-realized, who are always having me in their consciousness, who is all the time meditating on me, are extremely dear to me. So what Arjuna is going to opt for? Obviously. So the question which will rise in the mind of a devotee is how to then do this kind of meditation, what it requires. Bhagavan has already answered these questions in chapter 7, 8, and 9. Right? How he sort of manifests. Earlier also in chapter 3, he has sort of mentioned a few things. Chapter 6, he has all, I mean, so far he has been mentioning who is he, how the samsara appears, and how one should not confuse him as a human being. Right? And a lot of questions Arjuna has asked him. How do I recognize that you are the Adi Purusha, that you have no beginning, no end? And Bhagavan has answered all that. And some Vedanta he has already, now in a very focused way in chapter 13, he is going to give the secrets of meditation, that Tattvamasi thing, right? That Samanvaya is going to take place. So Bhagavan is now giving some very deeper aspects of the truths about Jiva and Brahman. And what is the similarity? What is the apparent dissimilarity? How we need to meditate so that we can overcome the dissimilarity with full knowledge of it and understand the inner hidden unity between the consciousness which we describe as us with name and form. But this consciousness, once you remove the labels, the branding that you have given it, becomes pure Satta Swarupa, where all of us who are doing satsang today are not different from each other. Those who hate us are not different from us. Those who love us are not different from us. Because we all are, in fact, various manifestations, various reflections, projections of one unified reality. That's what Bhagavan is saying. So this Dwadasa Adhyaya, let's start with Sankara Bhashya. But today, instead of going to Madhusudani, there is a beautiful commentary on these Vedantic secrets by Sankaranandi. So we will do that a little. We have that the time. We'll do only one verse because this is a complex chapter. The foundation has to be very solid. Then you don't need anything else in Bhagavad Gita. Everything will follow very easily. Like if you understand the chapter 7, 8 becomes easy. And then 9 also becomes easy. So they are kind of interrelated. So this one is very critical. So he's saying Ditya Prakriti Adhyayashu, starting with the second chapter. Shankaracharya started commenting. Arjunasya Vishada, he doesn't comment on it. He says that this is all about samsara. Then he starts with the dialogue between Arjuna and Bhagavan. There is where he thought is the relevance of whatever he wants to say. And before that, he thought it's not very, interestingly, he thought it's not very important. Okay? So until then, he was sort of quiet. And only after this, he started commenting. Ditya Pravritishu Adhyayashu Vibhutyanteshu, till the 10th chapter, the Vibhuti Yoga. He mentioned then Vishwarupa Darsana, and we had the Bhakti Yoga in the 12th chapter. Paramatmanaha Brahmano Akhyarasya, of this Brahman, of the Akhyara Brahman, of Akhyara, Vijwasta Sarva Visheshanasya, Upasanam Uktam. So all the names and forms, if you remove, then what remains? That pure Atma, that pure Brahman. How to meditate on that, that has been mentioned. Sarva Yogeshwarya, and Bhagavan is what? All this magical power, that prosperity, that abundance, which he's a ruler of. He's a controller of all this whole universe with that magical power, that Aishwarya. Sarva Jnana Sakti Mat, and that Sarva Ichha Sakti, Jnana Sakti, Kriya Sakti is all focused in that Bhagavan, that Maya Sakti he has. So Sarva Jnana Saktimat Sattva Upadhyaya Ishwarasya. Now, there are two things you will understand. This title of name and form or superimposition or adhyasya, at the jiva level, at the animal level, we call it avidya, ignorance. The same superimposition, principle of superimposition, which is clouding, which has two aspects. We have studied that. One is avarana, the other one is vikshepa. Avarana covers, vikshepa wrongly projects. Now, if I have to again go back, I'll just briefly mention you. For example, there is a rope. Now, you are not being able to see the rope. That is the avarana aspect. But the rope appears as a snake. So that is connecting you to a reality which is not there. That is vikshepa aspect. So avarana vikshepa. So with avarana, we are not being able to see the atma. With vikshepa, we are seeing samsara, multiplicity. So avarana vikshepa, both the sides, this ignorance has. Avidya tat karya. Karya is samsara. Avidya is the cause of this whole samsara. It's not like clay out of which pots are made. No, not in that sense. Because of the inability to understand the secret, this whole samsara, this multiplicity appears as real. That is what Vedanta says. It all appears real because we are unable to see the ultimate thing. When we sit in deep meditation, just imagine one fine morning we're going to leave. So many of our friends and relatives, some seniors, some colleagues, a lot of people died during Corona, isn't it? Now, just imagine, we are just accidentally here. We could have also died. And anyway, we are not going to be here for all time to come. We're going to go. And just imagine when you are going to close your eyes. Any of us is going to close our eyes. What is samsara to him? He's about to leave. He's told that, okay, you have 2 more minutes to go. He realizes, like this doctor who sort of put I think, Facebook or something saying maybe this is the last day or something before she left in Mumbai. So she had a premonition that because she's a doctor, she realized my system is falling. Now, once you know this, if there's some music playing on a radio or a television set, some news is coming, will you be interested in any of this? There's a cricket match going on, last over, 10 runs to be made, India can win. Will you be interested in this? You'll not be interested in anything. Nothing. Everything will be there, but you're not interested. Why? Because you know you don't have time. All these visayas don't excite you anymore. Now, the Vedanti, the Brahmagyani is like that. He sees everything, he accepts everything, but he's not interested because he has certainly got interested in something much deeper, which otherwise we don't see. We only see it once in a while, right? Now, we see very rarely actually. So he's saying, Ditya Prapratishu Adhyayashu Vibhuti Anteshu Paramatmanaha Brahmanaha Ishwarasya Vidhvasta Sarva Visheshanasya Upasanam Uktam Sarva Yogeshwara Sarvagya Jnana Saktimat Sattva Upadhe Ishwarasya. This is the word, Sattva Upadhi. So at the Jiva level, it's called Avidya Upadhi. The same thing is called Maya Upadhi at the level of Ishwara. Look here, the same superimposition. It's called Maya and it is Suddha Sattva Surupa. It's Sattvika. For us, it's Tamasika and mixed with Rajas or anything. Sattvika will be there very little. But it is Suddha Sattva Surupa at the level of Bhagavan. That is also one covering. That is why the Nirupadhika Brahman appears at Ishvara. But remember, that is Suddha Sattva Surupasya Ishwarasya Upadheja Taba Upasanam Tatra Tatra Uktam. So Bhagavan has explained how to meditate on me again and again on Ishvara. So Upadhika Ishvara, Bhagavan has advised. Vishwarupadhyaya in the chapter 11, where Bhagavan is talking about this is my Sarvatmaka Rupa. Why don't you meditate on this? Now you know how I control this universe. Adhyayetu. Okay. Ishwaram Adhyam. Adhyaye I think there is some printing error. Adhyaye taba Ishwaram Adhyam Tve Ishwaram Adhyam Samasta Jagadatma Rupam Vishwarupam. That is the Sarvatmaka Rupa, Vishwarupam, Twadiyam, and that is your Rupa. That is how you manifested yourself, Darsitam. Why did you manifest it? Upasanartham. So that, because I'm a little dull-minded, I find it very difficult to meditate on you. So you are very compassionate and you made it possible for me to meditate on you because you are showing your Vishwarupa to me. That is what he mentioned here. And then, Tvaya, O Lord, you showed it to me. And Tatcha, and that Rupa, Darshayitva, having shown that Vishwarupa to me, Darshayitva, Uktavan Asi, then you told me in the last two verses of the chapter 11 that meditate on me and be what? Mat karma krit. So you try to be mat karma ityadaya, ityadi, ataha aham anayor, uvayor. So this Bhagavan has advised him and Arjuna is asking. So, it's Shankaracharya speaking on behalf of Arjuna to make it easy for us. Vakshayor Vishishtaram Bhuvusaya, because I wanted to know. You told me that this is my Sarvatmaka Rupa, you meditate. 9th chapter you had mentioned that, that is the Guhyatama thing, top secret. What is that? Nirguna Nirakara Rupa, you meditate. So I got a little confused. In chapter 12, I asked, which one is better? Bhuvusayatwang Prichami Ityata Arjuna Ubacha. Now, after this, Bhagavan is saying, okay, I'll meditate on you. And then chapter 12 also, he mentioned that, be Matkarma Krit. Then he said, Mana Adhaswar, and try to do Samadhi. If you cannot do, try to do Abhyasa. And then he said, if you cannot do Abhyasa, be a Matkarma Krit, Matkarma Parama Bhava. And then if you cannot be, okay, do Karma Phala Tyaga. You mentioned all that in chapter 12. But finally, suddenly, Adveshtadi, you mentioned what is that realized guy, how does he behave, why he's so dear to you, you mentioned that. Now Arjuna is asking, this chapter 13 starts. Prichami iti Arjuna ubacha. Arjuna is asking, what is that question? Evam iti. So let's look at that sloka. Okay, I'm sorry. This is, we are again stuck in that chapter. We have finished that. Okay, so here the introduction. So I was confusing the 12th chapter again. I was stuck there. Saptame adhyaya suchite dve prakriti ishwarasya. Bhagavan, Shankaracharya is saying in the para prakriti, apara prakriti. What is the apara prakriti? That astada, which appears as different from Lord. Mana buddhi ahankar plus the panchatana matras. That is how the apara prakriti. Para prakriti is that sarva jiva bhuta, that Chaitanya Swarupa that Bhagavan mentions. So, Trigunatmika, Astadha, right? There's Trigunatmika Prakriti, Sattva, Tamas, Rajas, this Para and Apara, there are two kinds. And then they become 8, appear as different, Jadatmika, Bhinna, Apara, that is the Apara. Sansara Hetutvat, and that what creates this whole Sansara that we see in multiples. Para, what is that Para Prakriti? Cha Anya, that is different. And what is that? Jiva Bhuta, Kshetra, Kshetragya Lakshana Ishwaratmika. That is that Chaitanya which is responsible for carrying forward this whole Jagat. How it happens? Because there is consciousness. Otherwise, there will be stones and everything, but it will not be called Sansara. There will be no one to act. There will be no Buddhi. There will be no intellect. So he's saying that is Para Prakriti. Yabhyam Prakriti Bhyam Ishwara Jagat Utpati Sthiti Laya Hetu Tvam Pratipadyate. And by these two Prakritis, God's 3 qualities, that he is the Utpati Hetu who creates this whole Sansara. Remember, it's all an appearance. We are discussing Vedanta. It is a Vivartavada. It's a projection. Now, this appearance of the Sansara, the continuation of the Sansara, and the diminishing process of the Sansara, and what do you call it? Complete, what do you call it? At the end, sort of everything comes to an end. Vilaya, destruction of this Sansara. But destruction will not be a very right word there. This whole Sansara sort of vanishes. That Laya. So, Jagat, Utpati, Sthiti, and Laya Hetustum Pratipadyate. That is how you explain that you are the beginning, you are the end, and you are Anadi Ananta. Tatra Khetra Khetragya Lakshana Prakriti Dvaya Nirupana Dvarena. By explaining this Prakriti Dvaya, Para and Apara Prakriti, by explaining that to us, Tadvataha, And that Prakriti, who is having in control? You are that Prakritivan, Prakritivat. So you are Prakritivat and yours, Prakritivataha, Ishwarasya. And that you are the Lord of the universe. Tattva Nirdharanartham. And in order to understand what is that Tattva, you are that Padartha, you are that Ishwara. But what is that Ishwarasya Bhava? What is the nature? What is the dharma of that Ishwara? Tattva Nirdharanartham, to understand the truth about you, Kshetra Adhyaya Arabhate. So this 13th chapter starts here. Okay. Atita Anantara Adhyaya, the last chapter, 12th chapter. Cha Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam Ityadina. Bhagavan mentions Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam. These are the people who are very superior, very close, and they meditate on me. Yavat Adhyaya Parisamapti. Starting there till the end of the chapter. What did you do? Tavat Tattva Jnaninam. You mentioned these are the real Nirguna Upasakas and Tattva Jnanis. Sannyasinam. Who are they? They are Sarvakarma Sannyasis. They have lost interest in samsara and they are only meditating on me. Nishta Yatha Te Vartante Ityadeda Uktam. So you mentioned that they are very close to you, they are meditating on you. Kena Punha Te Tattva Jnanena Yukta. Now you are saying that they are Satata Yukta. They are fully, and their mind is at your feet. Their manas is at your feet. Mayar Pido Manu Buddhi. Everything is with you. But what is the method they employ to be able to focus all their attention, their life, and remain with a great sense of equanimity? What is the secret of their sadhana? How do they manage to do it? That is the question in the mind of the student who is Arjuna right now. Tattva Jnanena Yukta Yaksokta Dharma Charana Charanad Bhagavataha Priya. By doing which dharma, by doing what sadhana, they are so close to you. You love them so much. Why? You are curious, right? It's like there are 5 students and there is a father or there is a teacher and the father loves one student. So other students complain, why you love him so much? And aren't we good students? Aren't we your students? We don't follow your advice. So people have some complaints, a jealousy problem. Then the teacher or the father explains, look, he's more responsible. That night, all of you had run away. I was in an emergency situation. He stood by me. You have to understand why I give him some importance. Similarly, Bhagavan, Arjuna wants to know from Bhagavan, Bhagavata Priya Bhavanti Ityevam Arthaha Cha Ayam Adhyaya Arabhate. Why God loves them. What they do to become so close to Bhagavan, so lovable, such favorites of the Lord. That's what he is trying to explain in this particular adhyaya. Prakritischa Trigunatmika. Prakriti has 3 aspects, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Sarva Karya Karana Vishaya Karena. And this particular Prakriti appears as different things, right? Because the Sansara is Parinama of Prakriti. Purusha doesn't. Sankhya also we have Purusha is Nirvikara. And this Prakriti is also a Vikriti. Prakriti, Vikriti. Others are Vikaras. You have Prakriti, Mula Prakriti, which is all Prakriti. It doesn't change, Mula Prakriti. Then you have Prakriti, Vikriti. Then you have Vikriti. That is how we had studied the Sankhya. So here he's saying the Prakriti is Trigunatmika Sarva Karya Karana Vishaya Karena. By appearing as multiple of things, Parinata, it manifests. Purushasya Bhoga Pavargartha Kartavyataya. We had discussed Sankhya, if you remember, that Prakriti or Maya is like that dancer who comes on the stage and performs a dance number, some Odissi dance or Kathakali or Bharatanatyam, for the enjoyment of Purusha, that pure consciousness. Once the drama is over, she vanishes. So the Purusha gets into Sansara, identifies with the Sansara in Sankhya, and finally realizes, I am none of these, and goes back to its pure state. That is liberation. Vedanta is more or less the same thing, except that they have multiple Atmas, we have one Atma. So we are talking about total unity. So we have discussed that earlier, we will not digress further here. Prakritisya Trigunatmika Sarva Karya Karana Vishaya Karena Parinata Purushasya Bhoga Apavarga. Bhoga is what? Experience of Sansara. Apavarga is what? Moksha. So you will go through the whole Sansara, you will experience what it is, and Apavarga. you will also try to be liberated. Bhoga pavargartha kartavyataya. That is its duty. Maya will show the sansara so that you get into it, or maybe you understand it, then you discard it, then you are liberated. Dehi indriyadi akarena. And how does this Maya manifest, or this Prakriti manifest? It becomes Deha Indriya. We have discussed all that, right? From Mahatattva, Prakriti becomes Mahatattva. From Mahatattva, this, I mean, in Bhagavad Gita, it's Ahankara. So Mahatattva, Ahankara is one, some of the commentaries have mentioned. So it becomes Mahatattva, then you have Buddhi and Manas, and then the 5 Tanamatras, then the 555, Pancha Indriyas, Jnana Indriyas, Karma Indriyas, right? And Pancha Bhutas. The total becomes 24. And Purusha, that is 25. Here, the Purusha we don't include. What we include there is that we have Chitta, Ahankara, Mana, Buddhi. That's how it becomes. Some people make it 9 instead of 8. So, Trigunatmika, Sarvakarya Karana, Vishaya Karana, Parinata, Purushasya, Bhoga, Apavargartha, Kartavyatya, Dehendriyadya Karena, Sahanyate. Sahanyate means becomes that conglomerate, that coming together of these tattvas. That is how human beings are born. So we have that sanghata, all these tattvas and the sanghata, that combination. So iyam sanghata idam sariram. That is how this body is formed. Tad etad Bhagavan uvacha. Then Bhagavan is explaining. So you see here, Bhagavan will talk about Kshetra and Kshetrajna. What is the field and who is the knower of the field, manager of the field. It's like a vehicle and a driver. So that's Chaitanya Swarupa and the Jadatmika Sarira. That is the difference. He will tell at great detail and will slowly progress with it. Idam Sariram Kaunteya Kshetram Ityabhidiyate Etadyo Vetitang Prahu Kshetrajna iti Tadvidaha. Idam Sariram Kaunteya. Hey Kaunteya, this Sarira, this body that you have, or anybody has, is also referring to his own material form. He says Vasudeva Krishna, his blue skin and his murli and his beautiful eyes and everything. Kshetram iti abhidhiyate. This is how it's described. It's known as what? Kshetra. This is the piece of land on which everything happens. But who is the manager? Without it, nothing is going to be done there. Who is the cultivator? It needs a farmer, right? And that is the Chaitanya. Etad yo vetti, the one who knows it, that this is Kshetra. That means what? Jadatmika. It's not conscious. This body is confused as the self. No, it's not the self. Tang prahu. He is referred to as what? Kshetrajna. He is the knower of this field. He is the knower of this reality called this body. Iti tadvidaha. And that is how it's described. Now let's look at how he sort of expands it, and we'll go to Sankaranandi, which is a beautiful commentary to give us a very good introduction to the debate and the whole elaboration of the Vedantic philosophy here. Idam iti sarvanamna uktam. Idam. These are all pronouns in English, isn't it? Sarvanama. Sarvanamna uktam visinasti. Sariram. What is that idam? This body. And by using the word this body, you can pick up all, whether it's animal body or human body or anything. Every year you always have a body. Then there is a mind. Again, that mind is not the Kshetrajna. Remember, that we will discuss. We are talking about the self. There is a difference between self and mind. That we'll discuss today. He Kaunteya. Kshetatranath. Kshetatranath. Kshayat. Charanat. Kshetravad. Va asmin karma phala nibritehe kshetramiti. Why is it called kshetra? That he's explaining, right? So just look at this body. It decomposes, it decays after some time, isn't it? Why it's called kshetra? That he's explaining. There is slow, these short vikaras are there, right? Jayate, asti, bardhate, viparinamate, apakshiyate, vinasyati. These are the 6 things that will happen to us. The baby is born, stabilizes, no mortality, no child mortality. Then parivardhate, then it will bardhate, it grows, becomes a young man. Viparimanya, it then becomes prodhavastha prapta. And then what happens? Apakshiyate, and then vinasyati, then it dies after old age. Similarly, Bhagavan is saying that Kyaranat Kshetravadva Asmin Karma Phala Nibritehe. And then, so like for example, you do any cultivation, you get some food grain. Similarly, whatever punya papa karmas we do, these appears in this particular form. This body we have, this mind we have. Through this only papa punya manifests, isn't it? Whether through some fortunate situations or unfortunate situations, which are outcomes of our past bad or good deeds. So therefore it's called kshetra. Nibritehe kshetram iti. Iti sabda, evam sabda padarthakaha. Iti means evam, evakara, only, verily, that sort of thing. Kshetram ityevam avidhiyate kathyate. It is told so. It is understood as kshetra, the field. Etat sariram kshetram. Yo vetti, the one who knows this sarira verily is the body, is the field. Bijanati apada talamastakam. What is the body? Apada talamastaka. Starting from the feet, tip to toe. Right? Mastakam jnanena visai karoti. And it knows that this is my jnana padartha. It's different from me. I am the jnata. The knower is different from the known. The body is knowable. Please understand this. So this is a pen. I am knowing this is a pen. So this is the object of my consciousness, which is recognizing this. That means this is different from who am I. Similarly, you can know your body, which means you are different from your body. That is the secret message that he is giving us. Jnanena visai karoti. That is the object of our knowledge. Okay? Then, swabhavikena upadishekena va vedanena. How do I see that becomes the object of my knowledge? Either by nature I understand this is my body, or maybe I don't recognize, right? It's quite possible I don't recognize. Then maybe I have been advised, like that I am different from my body. And there is another book we were discussing in the Sankara Bhashya and Brahma Sutra, he explains this. Like, for example, there is a rural woman, and he also is following Papa Punya rules and regulations. She's a virtuous person. She helps others. She takes care of her parents and children and everybody, She's a virtuous lady and very compassionate towards animals. And there is a discussion that she's not a person who is very well read in Sastras. How does she manage to do it? What is the need for saying that only Jnana, that is the guy who can know? He has to be avijna. He has to have some Jnana. No, that's not this lady is following Upadishya Jnana. Somebody has given her advice that if you do, you'll be punished. So therefore she follows the rule. She doesn't have to study Vedanta. Gets the same result because she's behaving in a virtuous manner. Similarly, he's saying either through his own viveka, which means he's a jnani. No viveka, not a problem. You are taking advice from somebody. That is also fine. Upadeshikena va vedanena, or through his own experience. He may not have a guru. He may not have any viveka or discrimination, but he has his own experience. So over a period of time, by trial and error, he sort of visai karoti. He experiences body. He may not know he is different from the body as Satta Swarupa, as Atma. This Vedantic language he doesn't know. But he knows this is my body, or she knows this is my body. That is Vedanena. That is Pratyaksha. That is direct experience. Vibhaga saha. And then he separates himself from what he sees. This is my hand. This is my body. The moment I see it, I'm saying I'm different from this body, isn't it? So, Vibhaga saha is able to separate. Veditaram. He's a knower. He's a jnata. Prahu kathayanti kshetragnati. That knower self in that particular person, man or woman, who says this is my body, he is aware of his jnatri bhava. His knowing nature is different from what he appears as. He is a fair person or a dark person, a tall person, a short person, whatever he is. That is different from who he or she is. And that who he or she is has nothing to do with his name and form. That is different. Here we are talking about the jnata. We are talking about the knower self, the knowing self. He is above all these names and forms. He is Kshetrajna. He is one who controls. Kshetrajna here is not the owner, not in that sense, but the knower. Not the owner, but the knower, the one who knows. That's that Chaitanya Swarupa. That is what is referred to here. Iti sabda evam sabda padarthakaha eva purvavat kshetrajna ityevam ahu. K. Who speaks? Then he says, Tadvidaha, the one who knows that Atma, they have told that the one who knows this body is Kshetrajna. Tadvidaha means what? Atmavidaha. So these people, the great rishis, the great scholars, the great Vedantins, the great sannyasis who have been meditating on these issues from time immemorial have advised that there is a difference between the consciousness which knows this body as a body. There is a difference between this body and the Atma. That is the simple message. Tadvida means Tad Atmavid. Right? Tadvidaha. Kshetra Kshetrajno ye vidanti tadvidaha. The one who knows that the body and the consciousness are different, they have told us. Now, this is what is briefly Sankara Bhashya. Now, we have about 20 minutes. But more important, whatever we do, the Shankaranandi is very simple and will give you a very good context to understand. If you have not understood chapter 7 or 9, this particular explanation makes it so simple that you will enjoy listening to it. But you just need to give a little attention. That is the price you have to pay to enjoy it. So he's saying, Mumukshunam Sattva Suddha Suddhyartham Ishwar Upastihi Avasyam Kartabhya. So in order to have Ishvara Darshana and Sattva Suddhi is a requirement. Purification of our consciousness is a basic requirement to be able to understand what Vedanta tells us about Atma. Therefore, we do Upasana, Nishkama Karma plus Upasana. Avasyam Kartabhya. Iti tesam mandadi manda atyanta manda pragyavata upasana bhedam cha upastya. So Bhagavan has mentioned in the chapter 12 that you can do samadhi. Okay, I can't do it. Okay, then do some abhyasa. You cannot do it, not a problem. Try to do my work. Not even that. Finally, surrender the result of your work to me. So they the ati manda adhikari. For them, he sort of categorizes different levels of what a devotee can do to reach the Lord. Okay, atyanta manda pragyavatam. This intellect, his understanding, his ability to understand is very dull. So, upasana bhedam, different types of upasana, Bhagavan, cha upastya parisuddhatma akshar upasti videha mukti. So, if you do after you have your parisuddha antakarana because of this upasana, and Bhagavan has mentioned also in chapter 8, the Dhyaya Brahma Upasana, he has mentioned here also that at the end, if you do this karma tyaga, karma phala tyaga, you will get videha mukti. There is a long process, but he doesn't mention about it because the student might get a little harassed or demotivated. So he says that you do this and your body will fall, not a problem. You'll go to Brahma Loka and then you will get videha mukti with full attention. It could take a few births, I mean, depending on how dull he is and how seriously he is doing meditation, Bhagavan. Videha mukti kartabhya iti suchayitum sravanadir uttarasya utkrushtatvam. So the more you sort of progress towards that, the more and more sadhana you do, you have subtler and subtler experiences in the spiritual life. Cha pratipadya, and Bhagavan explains it. How, like for example, sarva karma phalatyaga, you go back, uttara. So you say, no, I'll do Bhagavan's karma, mat karma. Then you go even higher, you'll do abhyasa. Then he mentioned in that sloka, right? Abhyasat jnanam, jnanat dhyanam, dhyana sarva karma phalatyaga, because you are trying to praise him. But he's saying ultimately you have to do serious nididhyasana and surrender all your work or whatever to me. Then you will get videha mukti. Okay? Then kartabhya suchayitum sravanadehe uttara utkrishtatvam cha pratipadya brahmatmekatva vijnanena. So Brahma and Jiva, there is only one consciousness. With that wisdom, with that understanding, vijnanena, anatma bandha vinirmuktanam, because he glorified whom? the Nirguna Upastis, those who meditating on God without name and form. It's very simple, not very complex. We have understood two aspects. One is Shaguna Upasana, which is God with name and form, with Ishvara, whatever. Then when the consciousness is purer and purer, a person can meditate on the Nirguna Brahman. And what kind of people are there? Anatma Bandha Nirmuktanam. What is Anatma Bandha? Your attachment to the Anatma Padartha, Jadatmika Padartha, which is not Atma. Even in Tattvabodha, what is the first line? Nitya Nitya Vastu Vivekaha. That is what is Viveka. So what is Nitya and what is Anitya? What is permanent, what is temporary? So we have studied all that before, isn't it? So these kind of Vinirmuktanam, Jivana Muktanam, this Adveshta Sarvabhutanam, they are Jivana Muktas. They have reached the ultimate level of their sadhana. Therefore, they are Samahita Chittas. They are Samabuddhi Sampannaha. And they are Mat Paramaha. They are all the time Ishvara Paramaha. All the time surrender to God. And they have, earlier also Bhagavan has mentioned, Dukkhesu Anadvigna Manaha, Sukhesu Pigataspruha. So they don't have any excitement if you give them some money or anything. They are not disturbed if they miss a flight because they have a sense of equanimity. He has mentioned even earlier. So Jivana Muktanam, Brahma Vidam, and they know the Brahman. Adveshtitvadikam Lakshanam. So he has mentioned some qualities of these people. They are Raga Dvesha Rahita, Samabuddhi Sampanna, all that I mentioned right now. Lakshanam Sadhakanam tu Tadeva Sadhanam Anushtatabhyam iti. Then these Lakshanas, what is Lakshana for the realized or Jivana Mukta is sadhana or upaya for us. We'll imitate and try to have that as part of our sadhana. Iti bodhitva, having explained that to us, adhuna, now in this chapter, what? Jigyasoho mokshika kamasya, that moksha eka kamasya. He is only interested in moksha. Karma part is over. He has done enough for his wife, his children, his brothers, sisters, parents, whatever. He has done his duty. Now he wants to meditate on the Atma Padartha. So for him, Kamasya, Katham Brahmaitmika Jnana Vijnanam, King Brahma. So, this is the best part of this tika. Simplifies the whole chapter. He wants mukti. He will have a few questions in the mind. Anybody who wants to study Vedanta, what are the questions will come in his mind? These questions will come. King Brahma, Brahma kya hai? Kaustu Atma. What is this Atma you're talking about? That Jiva Brahma Ekatvam. What is Brahma? And Anatma Bandha Binirumukta. What is Anatma? What is Atma? This question he will ask. Kaha Punar Anatma? Atma kaun hai? Anatma kaun hai? Tat Krito Bandhascha kaha? And फिर अनात्मा से बंध किस तरह होते हैं? क्यों हम फंस जाते हैं? अनात्मा क्या है? What is anatma and how we get trapped in it? Kasa Jnanen Nivartate. Who is the one? And what kind of knowledge he uses or he benefits from to liberate himself, to break the chains, free himself from the chains. Kim Jnanam. And what is knowledge? What kind of knowledge? It's about knowledge of a pen or table or computer, coding language. Is the knowledge? No. What is it? And Jnana Sadhanam cha kathamba. And how to do this Jnana Sadhana? Jnana kya hai? Atma Jnana. Kaise usko karna hai? Kaise usko? How do you reach there? Jivana Muktischa iti akankyayam. And then what is Jivana Mukti? How to reach that stage? With this hope, the hope to answer these questions, to find answers to these questions, Kshetra, Kshetragnayor, Anatma, Atma Sabdarthayor. The Kshetra is Anatma, Jadatmika. Kshetragya is Atma, Chaitanya Swarupa. And how to understand these two words? Prakriti Purushayor Vivechanam. What is Prakriti and what is Purusha? We had done it earlier in the introduction to Sankhya, and today also we refer to it briefly. This Prakriti and Purusha Bhagavan has mentioned in chapter 7. And also chapter 9 he further clarified. Purushayor Vivechanam. Vivechanam, that particular separation, having a clear analytical distinction. Prakriti is Purushadhina in Vedanta, not like Sankhya. So it's very difficult you cannot see this is Krishna and this is his Maya. You can only see that avatara. That Maya is very much part of his game. The magician doesn't appear different from his magic. He comes to this state and starts showing magic, Can we say this is the magician and that is his magic? No, we see the result of his magic. He materializes a white bird out of a handkerchief in couple of seconds. You see that. And from that, you talk to each other and say that, look, he is a magician. But that magic thing is not the bird. That magic thing is not the handkerchief. The handkerchief became a bird. And therefore, you are guessing that he is doing something which you don't understand. You use one word called magic. Similarly here, Bhagavan manifests this samsara through a very complicated process which we cannot understand. We bring in a word called Maya, right? So that is what he's saying, that vivechanam, that separateness, this Purusha and Prakriti, that Maya, or that separating that Prakriti from Purusha is very difficult. But we'll try to understand it through this vivechanam, through analysis. Okay? Viviktasya atmanaha. This atma is separate, vivikta is isolated, is distinct. But it appears as if it is jumbled with Prakriti. The magician is different from his magic. But we always see the magician in the light of the magic we like. Atmanaha kshetragyasya. And that magician is the kshetragya. Brahmanekatvam viviktayor api kshetragnyayor vailakhanya jnana dadhyartham. In order to establish and strengthen this ability to see the distinction between kshetra and kshetragya, the jadatmika prakriti and the chaitanya swarupa purusha, to be able to draw this distinction through understanding, not through physical, perception. Through indriya jnana, we cannot reach there. Puna vivechanam, because it's so difficult to accept it. So we have to do that vivechanam, that analysis again and again. Vivechanam prakritehe bandhakatvam atmano api adhyasakruta bandha iti. This particular thing, prakritehe bandhakatvam, how this prakriti sort of binds us all and we are trapped in this samsara. And this bandha is not actually a rope with which Maya has bound us up. No, nothing. It is a wrong understanding. We have a tendency to superimpose certain imaginary things on, like the rope appears as a snake. Anybody has sent a snake there? No. Our faulty eyes, our way of looking at it creates fear in us. Similarly, faulty understanding of reality creates the appearance of samsara. That is what he's saying. Adhyasa kruta, that is superimposition. That adhyasa we do. We superimpose the snake on the rope. That is how the rope starts to frighten us. The Sachidananda Swarupa Brahman appears as samsara and traps us because of this adhyasa. This adhyasa krita, this reality which is a result of superimposition of certain names and forms on Suddha Satta, that is what Bhagavan says. This bondage is because of that faulty superimposition or adhyasa. Bandha iti bodhaitum. In order to explain, it's not easy to understand. Therefore, in order to explain it, Atmanaha aditvetyam, Bhagavan says, look, I will explain to you. First, accept Atma is aditya, and I will explain how is it without a second. So, samyak padaitum, in order to establish and then explain it, you have a hypothesis. Then you prove it by giving certain proof. Whether it's geometry or trigonometry, whatever, or any PhD thesis, you have a hypothesis. Then you do some research and you do some observations, you have some inference, and you establish it. So now you have that pratipadana, pratipaditum, trayodasa adhyaya arabhyate. To do what? 2-3 things. One, the Brahman or the Atma, the Kshetragya, is advitiya. There is no second to it. This appears as multiples because of adhyasa. What appears as multiple, what appears as the body is the Kshetra, Jadatmika. Who sees, who looks at it? That Chaitanya Swarupa. That is Aditya Purusha. To explain this whole science of Vedanta, 13th chapter starts. Tatra ado kshetragya kshetrat sankshepena vivichya. In very brief way, Bhagavan separates before Arjuna the Kshetrajna from Kshetra. Viviktasya Atmanoho Brahmane Ekatvam, and that Vivikta, that Atma ka Ekatva, it separates. It's it's just one. Bodhaitum Sri Bhagavan Uvacha. Idam Sariram Kaunteya Kshetramitya Vidiyate Etadyo Vettitang Prahu Kshetrajna iti Tadvidaha. Tadvidaha is Atmavidaha. Sattvadinam Trayanam Gunanam Samyavastha Lakshana. We have discussed that earlier in Sankhya. How this samsara, when Sattva, Tama, and Rajas are in perfect balance, there is pralaya as per Sankhya. There is no creation. Now, because of his proximity or sannidhi with Purusha, and he's saying Ishvara Prerana ke madhyam se, that's what he mentions here. Sa eva bhuktuhu Purushasya adrishta dvara Ishwar Preranaya. So, because of inspiration from Bhagavan. But this is one manner of speaking, it's not real. Because Bhagavan is a preraka. Why? Because there is nothing other than him. He is Chaitanya Swarupa. He has consciousness. Prakriti doesn't have any consciousness. So it cannot act, right? Only when Prakriti sort of gets in touch with Purusha, or Purusha sort of has that sankalpa, then Prakriti becomes active. It's like, the best example is, there is a car. It's jada. Can it go somewhere? No, it cannot go. It starts going when you get into the car. The moment you get into the car, you switch it on and you put your legs on this accelerator, you start it, the car moves and you are in charge of the steering. Now, when the car starts moving, what other people say? Do people say that there is a person driving the car? No. Even the person is driving, they're saying there is a car going. The car appears as if it is actually active, it has consciousness, but there is somebody driving the car. Same way, there is a film you are seeing. It's all appearing on the wall, right? And the film is happening. It appears all real, isn't it? These characters and all, and this is a projection. But an intelligent guy is sitting in the last row with a good science student, and people are shouting and crying and whistling at the film. He's sitting in a very dull way. He's watching. He's not amused. You ask him why. He's saying, actually, I don't know. The quality of the film is bad, and there is a guy who's in charge of this projector. He's looking at the scientific aspect of it because he knows this is only a projection of a few films with the help of light. And therefore, it appears as if some real things are happening on the wall, on the film screen. This good student of science is quietly watching this fun. Some people are crying, some people are angry. He is neither angry nor crying, he's just watching it. Similarly, this samsara, the preraka is Purusha. And with the help of the preraka, the way the vehicle moves, this prakriti, which is jadatmika, starts creating the samsara. And then guna vaishyamyam prapya, it gets the vishamata in the guna, sattvatama rajas. Because of the vishamata, the samsara starts getting created. So you have Mahatattva, out of Mahatattva, the other things follow. And we have discussed that how then you have this Mana Buddhi Ahankara, then you have these Panchatana Matras, right? And Jnanendriyas, Karma Indriyas, Panchabhutas, everything sort of starts coming out of it. Okay, so then Guna Vaishyamyam Prapya Sukha Dukkha Anubhutehe Vandhasya Cha Mokshasya Api Sadhanataya Swayam Eva Deha Indriya Pram. Then what Shankaracharya says, he's speaking in greater detail. Now, Bhoga Apavargartham. Bhoga and Apavarga. Apavarga is Moksha or Mukti. Bhoga is Sansara Bhoga. In order to enjoy, it doesn't mean getting trapped or anything, but to experience Sansara. So here he's saying, getting this Guna Vaishnava, Sansara is creates, and then Sukha Dukkhanu Bhutehe Bandhasya. That is the Bandha. Bandhasya cha Mokshyasapi, that Bandha, that is Bhoga. Getting trapped in Bandha. It causes the Bandhas, the bondages. Also creates condition for liberation. This whole Maya, right? Mokshyasapi sadhanataya. So it becomes the cause of all that. Swayam eva, and this Prakriti becomes what? Dehe Indriya Prana Mana Buddhyadi Rupena. It manifests at Mana Buddhi Prana. All the vikaras come out of this Mahatattva First, that you have that Mahatattva or Buddhi, then everything comes out from that Prakriti. Adi Rupena, Raga Dvesa Adi Rupena. Then, that Raga Dvesa, that is the Chitta thing he is bringing in here. And then, Samadhamadi Rupena cha, and the same Prakriti, also Sattvika thing comes out. You want to do Sama, and then Dhamma, Samadhamadi, Satka Sampati, you want to cultivate. The same Prakriti, manifesting as negative and positive things in you. So, Savdadi Vishaya Rupena api, then the Tanamatras and the Panchabhutas. Right? The Savdadi becomes Tanamatras, and then you have Akasa, the Bhuta, Sukshma Bhuta, and Sthula Bhuta. We have both the material realities, subtle and manifest. Both the things come out of it. Rupena api, and then Jagaradi Akarena api cha Bahudha Parinamate. Okay? And then this whole thing that it manifests at Jagrata Avastha, Swapna Avastha, and Susupti Avastha, the same thing is manifesting in different ways. Parinamate, it manifests. Tadeva idam Karya Karana Sanghata Lakshanam. This is what is Karya Karana Sanghata. Karya and Karana. If you look at anything, we have a few liens and you have a few qualities, and then there is a sanghata, cause-effect thing. It sort of comes together. Pratyakshena anubhuyamanam. And you can see this body. You can see a flower. You can see a stone. You can see your senses, isn't it? You can feel them if you can't see them. So, anubhuyamanam sariram, this particular body that you can see, you can feel it. Kshetram, that is the kshetra. That is the kshetra means what? The field. Raga dvesadi dosa visishtam. And this kshetra, this body, this mind-body complex, what are the qualities it has? It has jealousy, it has desire for happiness, it has craving for money, craving for relationships. Everything this body-mind complex has. Puman, this Purusha Vishishta. Purusha is not here that Saki Chaitanya or anything. He's saying this individual, Puman, this individual, Shiyate anena itiva kshetram. Why is it called kshetra, this body? Because through this particular physical object, we also appear, we also die. Khitehe kshayat sansarat, sansar atmakad, anarthat, sabdam adi yuktam purusham trayate itiva. So different explanations to why it's called kshetra. We take this body, we are liberated from it, isn't it? And that is why this is called a field. It's like our field office here. Yuktam purusham trayate itiva. Sarvada Deepa Shikhavat Swayam Shino Shinoti Itiva. Like you look at the lamp, you put some ghee and oil and you light a lamp. And you'll see over a period of time, it's burning, it becomes thinner and thinner and thinner. And towards the end, it turns blue, then it gets put off. If you're there, you can watch. Very difficult to watch it, but you smell it. Okay, it has got put off and it sent out that burnt smell. The bujgaya, the person has died. So he's saying, Deepa Sikhavat Swayam Shinoti Tiva Sukha Dukhadi Phalo Utpadane Kshetravat Acharati Tiva. Like, for example, you have some cultivation, some fruit trees or horticulture, you get results. Same way in this body, our Papa Punya or anything that also manifests, that appears. Okay? Sukha Dukha, all these are the fruits. Kshetra miti kshetra savdena avidiyate. So, bidvadvihi, who tells it kshetra? The wise people. Ityartha. Prakritihi prakuramta drishyajatam sarvam kshetram. So, all this, whatever is naturally apparent to our eyes, all this is the field. That is the kshetra. Kshetram tad eva idam sariram. And this physical body is that. Kshetra savdena Anatma Shurupam. That means Jadatma, not Atma. The moment you say Kshetra, that is the Anatma. That is non-conscious. It is not Chaitanya Shurupa. Nirupya Yathatma Surupam Bodhaitum Aha Etaditi. So Bhagavan, having mentioned it, he's saying, look here, there is a Kshetragya as well as. The one who knows it is Kshetragya. Bhagavan says, Etad yo vetitam prahu kshetragya iti tad vidaha. Etad anubhiyamanam sarira lakshanam kshetram yo veti. The one who recognizes the body as the field. different from the knower of the field, Kshetrajna. He is a wise guy. Swabhavena jnanena aparatalamastakam svikritya ahmiti gurupadesa janyena swasya. So either he sort of realizes through viveka, through a lot of analysis, or he follows the advice of his guru, then he knows this body is different from the consciousness. Guru Padesha Janyena Swasya Vishaya Bhutam Buddhyadi Stulantamidam. Or through his own perception, he sees his body is different. Shakyu ayam, prano ayam. He knows. He says, this is my eye. If you start with a child, you so what does this tell me? He knows. The boy learns the word and he says, what is this, boy? Papa, tell me what is this? He says, knows. What is this? Eye. That's how he knows. He has this Kshetra Buddhi slowly. Prano ayam, sariro ayam. This is very interesting, isn't it? That children, first actually, we teach them what is Kshetra. The child doesn't have any understanding as to who is he. After some time, slowly he knows that I am different. This is Papa, this is Mama, I am this. That consciousness slowly comes in. But the boy, even without knowing who he is, the boy asserts his very presence of his subjecthood by sort of asking for something, by if you shout at him or her, she cries, isn't it? The baby cries. It responds, it smiles. So slowly that consciousness comes in. And then you tell him what is the difference between him and this Jadatmaka Sansara by telling him this is Papa, this is Mama, this is dog, this is house, and this is nose, this is hand. So this Kshetrajna thing is kind of is given to him, but he doesn't understand the philosophical aspect, even though he does the vyavahara, the applied thing he does. Prano ayam, sabdo ayam, this is the sound, gandho iti, this is a good smell or bad smell, the boy knows. Pratyakhyena idam sabda pratyayartham krishnam drishya jatam bijanati tam kshetrasya anatmanah drishya jatasya veditaram ahampada pratyayartham chetanam purusham kshetrajneti kshetram prakritim prakritam cha sarvadrishyam swatah bhinnam janati iti kshetrajna atma iti prahu. So what he's trying to say is here, very simple thing. He's saying that he not only knows that this is a material reality, this body, and this material reality is different from that aham pratyaya. I am looking at this body. I am different from this body. I am different. This is my body. It is not well. This is thin. This is fat. This is attractive. This is unattractive. It requires a bit of health care. Who is saying this? I am saying this. This aham pratyaya, I'm referring to whom? I'm referring to my consciousness. I'm not referring to my mind or my buddhi, and we'll discuss all that. How the mind and buddhi also is not the self. This is very deep Vedantic thing. Oh, I'm sorry, we have crossed the time. I have to stop. We'll take it forward tomorrow. And so I'm sorry, it has gone beyond the time. So I'm putting this to an end, and we'll carry forward from tomorrow. Briefly, this is like this.